Let's start with activities. The first thing I could think of is getting out in nature, getting out, touching plants, breathing in fresh air, getting out for a nature walk. Forest bathing is my new favorite term. Just walking out in the woods, like soaking up that extra oxygen and just disconnecting for a while. Digging in the dirt, taking care of my plants, taking care of my herbs, right? All the things that we want to just nourish and just get back to roots, get back to centered and grounded. That's usually where I start if I can get outside.
Yeah.
If I
You hit all
can't
the
get,
high, yeah, you hit all the high points. I was like, if I were to make a list of things that we need to do to manage stress, it's like get out in sunlight, diet, get the toxins out of our diet, because, when we're adding not even just toxins, but sugar and fat and sweeteners are things that, or salt, fat, and sweeteners are things that we crave when we're in stress. So let's take a look at our diet. Move our bodies is another one. You mentioned, all of those things that you're talking about are move our bodies, get out in nature, look at what we're eating. What were some other ones I wrote down? Oh, laughter. Laughter was another one. And then how are you managing your sleep? Because sleep always, it's always affected by stress because of the cortisol and the hormones that we're pumping into our body. It shows up in our ability to sleep or not sleep. One that you didn't have on that list for me is dancing. Playing
oh,
loud music and kind of, a lot of people think of I need to stress manage by getting into meditation or yoga or quiet time. But for some of us, it's like, I need to move this out of my body. And the number one way to move cortisol, which is produced from stress, the number one way to move cortisol out of our body is to physical exercise, is to move the body and get physical exercise. And for me, music that lifts my mood and my spirit, and movement in the form of dance, not working out, because to me that creates more stress, thinking I got to go to the gym and I got to do that. I'm not a gym person, but boy, put my hair up and sweat like a crazy person, or not crazy, wrong terminology, sweat like somebody who's, been outside digging in the garden, listening to loud music, maybe at a Zumba class or a jazz or a tap or, some sort of a dance class, or even just cleaning the house and having music on while I'm vacuuming. I can move my body and dance, and that helps to push that stress out of the body.
right. We want to release those emotions. And, I have many friends love like kickboxing or
Oh yeah.
the big bag, that's
Oh,
going to
the heavy bag.
release those anger emotions, right?
Yeah.
And help them move on from that and get into the next more zen-like mode where they really want to be. And absolutely, the sleep class that I teach, we really focus on what we do during the day, and especially those last 2 hours before bed affects our sleep so much. And stress and emotions are a big, big piece of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about baths?
Yeah, that's the next phase, right? If you can't sleep, take a bath. What kind of things should we do in our baths? Yeah, I often talk about the nieces and nephews. I have 10 great nieces and nephews in the area. And so I find them here at the house often. And sometimes they want to sleep over, because they get a break, or mom gets a break sometimes. And the little ones always get baths. It's chamomile or lavender. And I was telling Paula, I said, I use the socks. They always seem to leave their socks here. I don't wear socks. I live in Florida. I don't even own socks anymore, but the kids still wear socks sometimes and they leave them here. And so I find these stray socks in the dryer, and I fill them up with herbs, tie them up, put a rubber band around it, and hang it underneath the faucet, and or I just throw those sock balls of herbs in the tub and let them play with them. They can wash themselves with it. They may have some oatmeal in addition to the lavender and chamomile. I know you love using Epsom salts. How do people use Epsom salts in their baths?
Yeah, I love using Epsom salts. I add my essential oils in. So I'll just grab these little jars from the dollar store, put a cup or two of Epsom salt, a little bit of baking soda in it, shake it together, and then I will literally drop essential oils in it, shake up the jar, and then I just have these ready to go in my bathroom or ready to give my stressed out friend
Yeah.
that just needs that quiet time. The old Calgon Take Me Away commercials.
Yeah.
this is much healthier, much safer for our bodies, right? Not
Yes.
chemically created. But then we can have that
I was
peaceful moment. And when we pour it under the water, when the water is running, it's going to release those oils into the air. So we're breathing that in, but also our body is going to be soaking it up, and mixing it with the salts helps it incorporate into the water, versus if you just tried to drop it in the water, it would just float on top. And then it's going to have that stickiness to your skin. But when you add the salts, it will incorporate it very easily into the water. Because, right, oil and water normally don't mix.
Mhm.
With a
Yeah.
little help, that salt will make it disperse. But then also the Epsom salt has magnesium, which also has those relaxing properties. It also helps us detox, again, pulling the junk out of our body, but also pulling those emotions we're trying to release too, right?
I was teasing or mentioning to Paula that I have a big jug, the Epsom salt, you can buy it in those 5-pound bags. And so I have a big glass jug sitting on the counter in the bathroom, and I stick all my empty bottles, my empty essential oils bottles in there. So you can actually make a formula with the herbs the oils that we're talking about today, or you can take your empty bottles that are more calming and soothing and stick them in there, and the residual, the little bit that's left over, the salt will get up in there. It will disperse throughout the salt essential oil. That fragrance is the scent is it will permeate all of that, and you'll get
Mhm.
every little ounce, every little drip drop, residual out of those bottles, and use all of them in your Epsom salts.
Yes, salt is so good for absorbing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What herbs do you like to use in your calming teas, Lisa?
Yes. Oh, we're jumping away from baths, going to teas. There's lots of them. When I think of adaptogens, adaptogens are herbs that help to manage stress. I grabbed a book here. This is probably one of my favorite books, David Winston. I met him and he signed this book for me, and it's always my go-to. I go back to it lots of times, but it's Herbs for Strength, Stamina, and Stress Relief. And it's just called Adaptogens by David Winston. And he talks about a variety of different herbs in there, and it shows you what ones that he jumps into. But I kind of break it down into a few different ways. Herbs for cooling. Stress can come from anger. Stress can come from overwhelm. Stress can come from environment, from work. There's so many different places that it can come from. So getting in tune with, what is it that I'm actually feeling? Am I feeling hot? Like, am I raging? Am I feeling hot? Am I feeling angry? Then I would go with things that are calming and cooling herbs to bring that down. So that might be things like rose or hawthorn, bringing roses in, putting rose petals in your bed, putting rose petals in your bath, smelling roses or rose essential oil, which is a little bit expensive, but rose petals and hawthorn. Another cooling one that I like is marshmallow. All of those can be made into a tea, and then add a little bit of local honey to it for that sweetness and nurturing. When I need nurturing, like I am tapped out, exhausted, fatigue, my go-tos there are things like milky oats, dandelion, because anger lives in the liver. The liver has to process the emotion of anger, and so dandelion is nutritive and supportive of the liver. So dandelion, milky oats, nettles is the other one. So when we're depleted, we need to get vitamins and minerals in our system, and stress depletes us. It depletes our energy. It causes fatigue and exhaustion. And so nettles has a deep root system, and it has lots of vitamins and minerals in it. So those three together are, for me, that I find that to be a beautiful stress relieving, calming tea that's nutritive. And then we can get into the straight up calm me down, holy basil, which everybody loves the flavor of holy basil, or chamomile and lavender are a couple of go-to ones. If you're going to use any of those, you can add tea or lemon juice or even a drop of essential oil to them. Are there teas that you kind of go to when you manage stress, Paula?
Chamomile always is a go-to. Lavender, lemon balm is also a really common one that I love because I grow so much of it. It just keeps multiplying everywhere. But it's also super powerful. And as an oil, it's often called Melissa oil. So it's easy to use. If I can't get out in the middle of winter in December with fresh stuff, that's when I turn to the oil substitutes. Um, Roman chamomile and German chamomile are often very different. So depending on where I am at, I often tend to gravitate more towards Roman chamomile. Then the German seems a little bit stronger to me, or has a little bit different scent to it that I'm not leaning in as much to that one. But definitely the Melissa or lemon balm
Yeah,
is
the
a
lemon
big
balm
one.
it's actually a nervine. So it works on the nervous system. So again, tuning into, what am I experiencing? I kind of referenced anger as stress, how that might come up, like the anger of overwhelm, like having some resentment, those emotions that might be coming up. But what if it's nerves, like nervous system? And so lemon balm, number one for me, for nervous system, holy basil and lemon balm together, a beautiful tea to calm us down and allow us to catch our breath and think again. Because sometimes when our nervous system is on high alert, when it's overacting, when it's firing, we can't even string sentences together. Like it's hard to go, what do I do next? What is my next step? So taking that pause, maybe listening to soothing music and having a cup of tea like that. But what if that nervous system gets fired off at work and you don't always have time to have tea or take a moment? You can make lemon balm or lemon balm holy basil iced tea. Bring it to work in your water bottle, sip on it all day long, and it aligns with the nervous system to keep us calm throughout the day. And I'm sure that there's some oils that we can do that same thing with. What oils would we jump into? Like vitality oils that are safe for ingestion, and then we can get into maybe topical oils to help calm the nervous system. So where would you start with drinking oils or
My go-to top two, lavender and frankincense. Both of them can be ingested. Young Livings can be ingested because they are just pure, highly concentrated oils. But lavender, I love, again, like you said, with local honey or with local maple syrup, just in a tea to easily ingest, or I can add lavender to my lemon drink. Lemon also helps flush things out of our bodies, right? So using that as well. But frankincense is usually my first go-to for the day. It is high in sesquiterpenes, so it actually affects our brain and it calms our mind and helps clear. Like you said, when you're stressed, you can't even think, right? So that's where frankincense helps bring in that calm and clarity to the mind, calms the body down. Scent is actually also triggered in our amygdala. So scent, emotion, memories, they're kind of all tied together. And so when we can use an oil, which is a highly concentrated scent, that's going to also help us release that emotion. It's going to help us often with memory as well. We've seen a lot of older patients that struggle with memory. Using oils can help light up some of those centers of the brain, get them having a little bit better days and such. So a lot of people aren't really familiar with frankincense other than it's referenced in the Bible, right? But most of us are familiar with maple syrup, right? It drips out of the trees in the spring, especially in Minnesota when we have this transition from cold nights and then warmer days. It's just running out of the trees and everyone's making maple syrup at this time of year here. Frankincense also comes from a tree. It also drips out of the cuts in the trees, and I don't know if you can see that, but it makes like a tiny little resin. So it's not as runny as maple syrup. It's going to thicken.
Sap from maple trees.
So it's going to thicken into a hard resin on the outside of the trees. So some people will chew on this, but most often it's utilized to be extracted safely and then distilled into the essential oil to make it much more convenient to take a little drop than carrying around a little resin of bark to burn or however you would use that. But I love frankincense. I simply will just put a drop on the top of my head, get that right into my brain, or a drop under my tongue, and be able to experience that when we're using oils, we're going to smell it. It's going to circulate throughout our system very quickly. Topically, our cells are going to absorb it. It's going to be moving through every cell in our body within 20 minutes. So it has a powerful impact. And most of the time, any oil, whether it's frankincense or lavender, I'm just going to breathe it in. So we talked about breathing earlier. I'm just going to drop a little in my hand. I'm going to rub my hands together. And I'm just going to breathe. Breath work is so calming for the body. My favorite is the four-sided box breathing, where you breathe in to the count of 4, you hold it to the count of 4, you breathe out to the count of 4, and you hold it out to the count of 4. So I'm just imagining this box as I'm breathing, just letting it in and out, holding, out, holding, in, holding, out, and just keeping that rhythm going just to calm my mind, calm my body. And then at the same time, I'm just breathing in whatever oil that is. I might put the rest of it on my neck, my chest, the back of my head, or even in my hair. Here's just a natural diffuser.
Yeah, you're always getting that fragrance around you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that share. That's wonderful. I did breath work. We can do that at a stoplight if we're in traffic and it's really super tense. We can do that at our desk. We can do that if the kids are screaming in the other room. We can just go to the bathroom and sit down and do, some square breathing just to calm our nervous system down. We don't have to use oils and herbs. There's other modalities that we can use. Tapping is another one. Just finding that thymus, right in the center of your chest and just tapping there. And that calms our nervous system down. There's tapping where there's all the different tapping points, but one simple tapping point is right there, center of the chest. And you can do that while focusing on your breath. You can tap on the back of the hand, same thing. It calms that nervous system down and brings us present, and it maybe allows us to free our minds to think of what's the next step, because that's oftentimes where we get caught up in with feeling those emotions and having that stressful time. We don't know what to do next. We don't know where to go. We don't know how to make change to get ourselves out of that stressful environment. So using these tools helps you to do that instantly in the moment. When we're looking at chronic stress, this is maybe caused by a job or an environment that we're in. Chronic stress, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of the seat of the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands is our protective mechanism. It's the one that kind of controls some of that stress response. And so nutmeg is an oil that can be placed over the adrenal glands. So if you find your bottom rib there, the adrenal sits slightly below that. So and nutmeg is a spicy oil. So you'll want to add that to a carrier, maybe coconut oil, grapeseed oil, or a clean, pure lotion. Adding a drop or 2 to that, mixing your hands together and applying it over that location and smelling it is something that's going to help to support the adrenal glands, which are affected during chronic conditions. Other herbs for those adrenal glands, the number one that we hear about is called ashwagandha. It is an adaptogen, and it is nutritive and supportive of our adrenal glands in the long term when we're managing that chronic stress. So other ways to manage chronic stress so that they don't affect or run into our sleep. I'm going to toss that one over to you, Paula. Let's talk about sleep, because we both, we teach sleep classes. We talk about creating a safe environment. Let's jump into some herbs and oils for sleep.
Yeah, frankincense, again, I would bring into sleep as well to calm the mind, but also cedarwood. Cedarwood also has those calming properties. Lavender, of course. Lavender is going to calm down the system. And then I would also look at some of the floral oils, such as, lavender flowers, of course, as well as the lavender plant. But ylang ylang is a really calming one. It's great. I actually shared it with a coworker whose wife was going through some stressful times, and gave him some ylang ylang to help her. But I said, well, it also has another impact. I don't know if you know. And it was traditionally used on the wedding beds. Petals were placed on the wedding beds as relaxation and fertility and getting in the mood.
Aphrodisiac.
Yes. So
Aphrodite.
he quickly said, I'll be sure to give her that elag to help her stress
Yeah.
levels and whatever else too.
Yeah, sex is one of those activities that can be included in your stress management. It
Right.
is, yeah. And so to stimulate that, jasmine too. Ylang ylang and jasmine both have those aphrodisiac qualities, but calm the nervous system and relax us, and can help us get in the mood. I can't remember. I think jasmine is worn by the woman to arouse the man, and ylang ylang is in the room to arouse the woman. I remember. Who is it? Lucy Libido did a class on this. She's amazing. And she talked about these herbs that we can use in the bedroom environment. So that's what you brought that here. So herbs, those are a couple of the oils. And then, of course, lavender and chamomile always, they're good for everything all around the board. They're just so convenient. Other herbs in the area of sleep would be valerian. You've probably already all have heard of valerian. I call it that stinky feet smell. It's not the most pleasant herb, and so not everybody wants to drink that, but it works really well in a capsule or a tincture. So valerian is a great go-to. Passion flower is milder, or California poppy are both herbs that are a little bit milder. So depending on your level of stress, you don't need to bring out the big guns when you can find something that will just take off the edge to calm the nervous system. So the word that we're looking for, though, is nervines. We want to be supportive of our nervous system, calm the nervous system, and then bring us back into a place where we can calmly drift off to sleep. And so those are some of the herbs that will work for that.
I love to put those ones that I don't like to smell as much on my feet. So valerian, vetiver, rue, those are all really powerful ones that go on my feet, not necessarily in the diffuser on my nightstand.
Nobody wants to smell those. Yeah. And actually I do. Yeah, I've grown to like vetiver. I've worked with a lot of kids who have attention issues, and vetiver in a roller ball just brings them fully present, helps them to get grounded. And so I've grown accustomed to vetiver. But when you first start smelling it, you're like, whoa, whoa. But it's interesting. Kids don't have preconceived notions, and neither do animals. They don't have a preconception about herbs. Either it will work or it won't. And so they're when they find an herb or an oil that works for them, and you give it to them in a roller ball, it's like, I can't find my rollerball. Where's my rollerball? They'll carry it on them. They know it helps them. I have one of my nieces struggles with sleep, and so she uses vetiver. We use vetiver and a couple of other oils mixed in a rollerball for her. And so she knows that when she puts that on the back of her neck as she's getting ready to go to sleep and brushing her teeth and putting her jammies on, it makes a difference if she doesn't use it. It helps her to calm down, to slow the mind, the rat race that's going on. She's a brilliant young lady, straight A student, but has a lot of I don't know if it's stress, but when we're high achievers and we're driven, it creates a type of stress. And so just allowing the mind to calm down, rest, so that she can get up and be brilliant again the next day. So,
and incorporating those things into our evening routine is so great for the subconscious mind too, because then it tells our body, I smell this, I'm moving into this stage of relaxation, and I'm moving and transitioning into that calm space, calm environment. And so that you can have that just to start your evening routine. And as adults, we don't do that as well. We're pretty good about helping kids with an evening routine. Yeah. So we can build our own evening routine, because when we can manage those emotions, journal it out, deal with it before we go to bed, we can wake up happier. We can have more restful sleep when we address these stressful things, when we allow our body to release those emotions. Most of us try to hold it in, but we need to release those, especially before we go to sleep, so we can really have a true fresh start the next day.
I'm going to just I listed a few other oils that I've used for stress management. So I want to share those before we pop over to a couple of supplements. Or did you mention citrus oils or floral oils? You mentioned floral oils. So floral, neroli, which has a beautiful orange scent to it. It's a little bit more expensive, but boy, that is a sensual, very light and uplifting oil. Bergamot is another one that I wrote down. And then rosemary. Rosemary works on the brain. Rosemary can help us with memory recall. It stimulates blood flow to the brain. I touch my hair because oftentimes you'll find it for hair in hair growth. We put it in essential oil in our shampoo, the rosemary in our shampoo for hair growth. But rosemary has an affinity for increasing that circulation to the brain and helping with memory recall. So sometimes that's all we need, is to be able to get our thoughts back in alignment, where we're not chasing and we can't connect to our thoughts. Rosemary can help create some grounding so that we can get clarity around our thoughts. And rosemary and orange make a beautiful diffusing formula. Just in your office, or if you work from home, having it diffused in your home office can help with focus and grounding when you're on virtual all the time and doing the things that we do while we're at home. So that's one that I really like. Supplements, probiotics and omega-3s are the two that came up for me. Omega-3s go straight to the brain. They help with, that's fish oil. Sometimes it can come from algae too. There's vegan choices, but our brain needs those omega-3s. Our whole body does. It helps with our eyes, our joints, and everything. But specifically, it supports our body when it's struggling with stress. And then probiotics, if we keep our elimination systems working, we want to feed our gut bacteria. Our gut is considered the second brain by many. There's some studies done about how the gut works and functions. And so it helps in the decision-making process. So if we have healthy gut flora and we are adding those omega-3s to our brain, those are two simple supplements that we should be taking anyway, but there's a direct connection to how they support the body when we're under chronic stress. Do you have any others that you want to add for supplements on that, Paula?
Oh, of course, greens. It's my
Always.
common theme every week, right? Greens, greens, greens. Capsules of multigreen powders. I have a couple of favorites that I love from Young Living. And it's just easy to incorporate in, but especially when we're stressed, we're prone to a lot more stress eating. And this is the time where we need to have higher willpower. Knowing that we are stressed, knowing that this time of any time, we need to avoid the sugar, we need to avoid the processed foods, we need to nourish our body so that we can move forward. When we feed it sugar and garbage, that's not going to help our mood. It's going to actually lower our whole body's frequency when we have poor foods. So we're not helping ourselves at all. So have the willpower, choose the nutrients and foods that help our body more so than any time, because you really need to focus on the good food equals good mood. And stress and balancing our moods and emotions are a big, big key of that. So let me be that little angel on your shoulder reminding you when you're stressed, good food equals good mood. And have the stronger willpower in exactly those moments so that you can make those transitions and those changes. And that leads into this journey of managing our stress and getting us back into that clear, calm state that we want to operate in on a daily basis, right?
For sure. Well, we've exceeded our time. We usually go 20 to 30 minutes. We're over today, but that's all right, because I want to just wrap this up and say, good food equals good mood. When you are looking for resources to manage your stress, try to find a place to get grounded and calm. Look to what you have in the medicine, not in the medicine cabinet, in the kitchen cabinet for herbs, or what essential oils do you have, stashed away somewhere. Pull them out, take some of these ideas and figure out, is it bath salts? Is it a tea? Is it, just diffusing or applying oils to our skin somewhere? Maybe it's breathing or tapping. Those are some of the great takeaways that you'll get here. we have so many more. I have so many more notes. I pulled a handout from my stress class that I teach. Paula grabbed her handout from her sleep class. I think that we're going to join forces and perhaps do a series. It might be, I'm thinking maybe a 4 to 6 week series on stress management. So stay tuned for that. It'll be coming at some point in the future. Just when we started diving into this topic and comparing notes on the people that have requested this information, there's a demand right now. There's a huge need. There always is, in our modern society. So we'll bring that forth for you at some point. And in the meantime, replay this video and take away some more tips. Try to apply some of these things that you've learned, and we'll let you know when we're putting that course together. Any final thoughts from you, Paula?
No, I love this conversation, and I encourage any questions on that. And I'm looking forward to next week when we're talking about making perfumes out of herbs and oils and body sprays and making a healthier option.
Yeah, we're coming into Mother's Day here in the United States, and we're going to make some mood sprays for mommy. I think that's what we'll call it. Mood sprays for mommy. Maybe we'll do some things for dad too, but in honor of Mother's Day, we'll come up with some perfumes and scents that we can play around with, some formulas or recipes. Yeah, recipes that we can play around with. All right, thanks for tuning in, and go have a stress-free day.
Bye.